Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back to the canyon. Welcome to the month of August, the first Wheelin Wednesday of the month of August, and it is softly drizzling. Softly drizzling. In August, which is that's not a thing. I got to thinking as Jake was making his run out here to the back. Oh, yeah, I would be remiss. So I did indeed get that drag harrow going. That's fun. I mean, I think on some level, I just like driving a yard tractor. I mean, who doesn't? But dragging that thing around, you know, you imagine yourself at the infield of your favorite baseball stadium, and just what a fun time. I only got the chains tangled up in the wheels once. So having Jake out here on a meaningless meander is a nice change of pace. I don't know if Jake has appeared in video since he got his actual gold wheels to match his gold, well, to sort of match his gold motor. I think I mentioned it in a previous video. Maybe I did show it, that the wheels sold as gold are actually copper, and these are sold as yellow. And on the outside, they're a little bit yellow, but on the inside, they're like satin on the outside, but on the inside, the side that faces in, they are gold. They are the exact same color as his motor. So I don't know what's going on down at the factory where they make cheap bead locks. But Jake is a man of singular canyon occurrences. He's got the only 2-slot 16 big bore 540. He's got the only 1080 G2. I just have a mess of 1080s, and we have one G2 because I bought it specifically for testing, and it ended up in him. I think that one of the buttons on the old controller here actually disables his drag brake, but I use it so neverly that I don't even remember what button it is. This is an older RC4 GS V2, so it doesn't even have cruise control. So he's got dig, and he can turn his drag brake off. I just don't remember how to do it. He's got the only Canyon set of landmines. He's got the only Canyon set of anti-foams. What else? There's something else. Because he was built, when Jake got built, there was a completely different intention of where he was going to end up. I knew I wanted to reuse the Ecto body, which was Yella's original body before he got the Gozer. So this is just the yellow RTR Ecto body painted on the outside. I knew I wanted to use this body, and the original goal was to build Jake out of stuff that we had lying around. So he's running I think it's a Spare Time Hobbies flat skid for Capra. And then that was when I realized, so this is relatively early on, this is when I found out the really hard way that effectively all of the gear reduction in a Capra comes from the portals. The gearbox does nothing. It's like 1.6 to 1 or 1.8 to 1, something like that. So you need an extraordinarily high turn motor, and if you go way back through the It Came From the Workbench series, or whatever it was that Jake came out of, I think he was in It Came From the Workbench. If you go way back through that, there was a time when he was running a Capra gearbox with like an Intigi 80 turn, I think, and it was still way too fast. So the skid, I'm gonna try to get off of it. No, I think I'm stuck. Look at that. So he ended up, thanks to the Vader adapter to put a 3-gear on a Capra skid. So he's got a bunch of stuff that works. He's got a bunch of stuff that nobody else has or can have. Like, if you're not familiar, I can make an effort to roll him over here so that you can see his belly. Those that don't know, on the Capra, the lower links actually, on the chassis side, they actually mount oh, there she is. They actually mount touching each other. So the amount of spacing that you have between your chassis side lower link mounts affects the roll center of the vehicle. Like it determines how when you lift a leg, when it goes into a through wheel motion, the proximity of those lower link mounts to each other really determines how that rig behaves, which is why I think back to, we call Jake the ground foe because the chassis is loosely based on the Artful Dodger's Ground Fox, and we remember back to a competition of the GFO versus Jake. Jake was still early in his setup, so he wasn't quite as finalized as he is now, and I still don't know if he's 100% finalized yet. But at that time, the GFO handled him relatively well, and it was strange to see a smaller tire, bigger body rig just manhandle a larger tire, fenderless. You know, Jake should have some perceived advantages. He's got dig, the GFO does not. And the GFO still handled it pretty well, and I think it came down to the terrain that we were using that day. Because the close mounted lower links, while not paired with the width of Capra axles, these are SSD Diamond Pro 44s, so he's much more of a conventional axle width. What happens is Jake is a little bit of a snappy boy. So what'll happen is he'll get to a certain point. And can he drive this through? Yeah. Well, he didn't have the big knuckle weights back then. So this is one of those things. This throws back to videos where I've mentioned, you know, drive it till you know what you need. And Jake was definitely a drive it till you know what you need guy, because I didn't know what he needed, because like he wasn't done. You know, there was still a lot. Well, that took a long time. So we couldn't just throw weights at him or move things around, and he wasn't running my favorite brush motor at the time. And the thing of it is even with the 3-gear adapter, the Capra skid, and the Capra in general, is built for a 540. And Jake goes far back enough in the build series that there was a time where I was very resistant to 540 motors. It's like, if I could put a 550 in it, I'm gonna do it. And I don't know, I guess I've gotten, not enlightened, but just more open to the knowledge that doesn't have to be. There is no perfect power plant. Like, Jake basically can't fit a Fusion. He can't fit a Fusion without work. I mean, like, stuff has to change. He can't, the motor won't fit because of where his rear upper link on the passenger side comes in. The motor is right there. He's not as tight as some rigs, like Toothless, with his motor in the opposite configuration. Jake's motor aims backwards, Toothless's motor aims forwards. Toothless's motor, I have a tab on the 540, on the rebuildable 540. The tab is bent in to clear the lock nut that is holding the driver's side front upper link on. So that thing technically doesn't even fit a 540. If you were to use a, you know, a typical RTR sealed can, wouldn't fit. So a Fusion's not going to fit, and not only that, a brushless 540 won't even fit. So this lends to that. I still, when I guess I don't know what I was thinking of, but when people will complain on forums or elsewhere about dated designs, they don't want to buy something because it's a dated design. And my automatic fallback would be like, bro, it's live axles. You know, they've been around for 100+ years. Let's look at a RC four-wheel drive with leaf springs, which go back to like, what, the 1830s? That was my thought. I was thinking technology. I hope what most people were talking about that I was ignorant of at the time is that there was an era in the building of rock crawlers where it was like 540s. It's just 540s. And there are also rigs that taller case servos don't even really fit very well. So it's kind of like they build the freeway to access the town, assuming that the town will never get any bigger. So the freeway is barely big enough to accommodate the number of people that live in that town when they build the freeway. I speak of this from some depth of experience. The freeway is, like, if you go in a straight line like that, like 2 miles is the freeway. In California, that's what we got. Freeways are our thing. About 2 miles away is the freeway. The freeway was built now, and I hate to think about it, the freeway was built about 30 years ago. We used to have a segment of freeway called the Crosstown Freeway. We called it the Crosstown Freeway because it was 7.5 miles long. They built a freeway from one side of the town to the other with the intention of connecting it to a freeway that goes all the way to the LA area. It goes all the way to the LA Zoo, right? The idea was to connect it to that. And then they didn't for 35 years. And then there was no freeway over here where I live now. It was just dirt. Like, they left the opening. They knew they were going to do it. Then they just waited 30 years to do it. Then they finally built it. And I mean, what a joy, because it used to be that if we wanted to go out to where stuff is, because by Southern California standards, we still kind of live in the sticks. I mean, look at the size of my yard. If we wanted to go somewhere, like to a movie theater, this was before we even started to get movie theaters that had more than 2, or maybe if we were lucky 4, and then at one point they built a 5, which is insane. But we would have to, there was one freeway choice, so you got to get into traffic. So they built the new freeway, and everything was fine. For like, I don't know, 7 or 8 years, and then freeways bring more people, and then more people moved here, and then now the freeway isn't big enough to hold the people. So you would get traffic 24 hours a day just trying to get on the freeway. It was like we lived in Manhattan, only we don't get any of the Manhattan stuff. So then they said, fine, we will add a lane. And they began during the dark times. They had their groundbreaking ceremony over there, everybody in masks, and there was no crowd, and there were photographs, and it was weird. It was super weird. And it began in like, and I mean in like the heart of it. We were in the lockdown at that time. So I want to say like March 2020. I'm gonna lean in real close right here. They just finished. They're actually not even done. They keep closing off ramps because I don't know what they're doing. So it took almost 3.5 years to add 1 lane per side to 7 miles of freeway. 3 years. We frequently, as a family, because like I said, we have to drive to where the things are. We might show up down in Orange County, and they spent, what was the total expenditure on that one? They added a lane to the 405 freeway, one of the busiest freeways in the world. They added a lane to the freeway on the 405 to the tune of $1.5 billion. It took like 7 months. Done. Because I have to remind myself, look at the water forming up on the tires. Because we live in the sticks, and it's absolutely not a priority. There's really, I mean, if you want to count this place, people would come here. People would come here for this, right? To do this. Other than that, I grew up. Okay, you go that way, 7 miles by road. As the crow flies, probably 5. And then if you go about 3 miles past that, that's the hospital I was born in. And I often think about people. I can't even remember where I read it. I know that a dude that unfriended me on Facebook one time said, "You'll probably spend your whole life in the shitty town that you were born in." Okay, and like just because you moved, so movement is success? I don't know. People move presumably because they have better prospects somewhere else, or potentially they hate where they live. And good old San Bernardino has never been a palace. I still have a t-shirt tucked away in a drawer that has a bunch of vultures perched on top of the sign, and it says All Murder City on it, because around the 89, 90, 91 years, The per capita murder rate in San Bernardino exceeded that of New York. Hey man, we were the meth capital of the country for a while. You know, that's how it is. But from where I'm standing right now, in 1 hour, I can be at 7,000 feet, Big Bear Lake, California, sitting by the lake. Or in 1 hour, I can drive the other direction and be at the Pacific Ocean at the beach. We got Disneyland, we got Knott's Berry Farm, we got Magic Mountain, we got SeaWorld, we got the Angels, the Padres, the Dodgers, like you name it. Like, for all the reasons not to live here, there are so many reasons to live here. And I used to say, I can't leave here because, and my wife has accused me of this in the past. She has said that you're a small town person with big town needs. And I'm like, you know what, that's true. Like, the convenience of Amazon, which didn't exist until I was like 40, right? I can get anything I want, sometimes the same day. Like if I put big air quotes around this, if I need something, I can go in the house and order that off Amazon and maybe get it today, which means I don't have to go to a store, which would be amazing because I don't like leaving. And the gleaming, razor sharp, double-edged sword of internet convenience. I am about 35 miles away from Pegasus Hobbies. Those of you that know, one of the biggest hobby shops in the world. And there was a time, not too long ago, let's say we go back 10 years, you could go in there and literally buy anything you needed. The parts, they're on like sliding pegboards. Like, it's amazing. Like, it's like 8 rows deep. Any part you can think of, they had it. And unfortunately, I can't say any part you can think of, they have it. Because they don't. Not anymore. You go down there to get a can of Tamiya paint and they're out of that color, or they don't have the parts to fit your rig. And Proline has pushed out all the other tires. So basically, that's what they carry. They might have 1 or 2 pairs of Duratreks, or they would have, not anymore. Bodies hanging from the roof, like hundreds and hundreds of bodies. And 94% of them are Proline. So, contracts, and then the internet makes it to where brick and mortar places can't afford to keep that kind of stock on hand. And I get it. It sucks because we traded one convenience for another at the expense of arguably, like the hobby store that I went to my whole adolescent, teen, and much of my adult life closed down just before COVID. So, and was open in the same location for, had to be over 50 years. So I'm certain that the internet did that. And the thing is, this is something that you can't be a standard by, right? It's not a situation of you're either part of the problem or you're part of the solution. No, you're one person, and you can speak with your wallet, right? And you can say, I'm going to support local business. I'm going to pay that little bit extra. I'm not going to go to the faceless conglomerate to buy my things. But for every one of you or me that says, I'm going to buy that locally, there's 1,000 people that are like, nope, I'm going to buy my vacuum from the place on the internet and not from the place that's been selling vacuums since the 1940s because they're too expensive. And then the place that sells vacuums since the 1940s and was the only place that could repair vacuums, well, they're gone now. And, you can never go back, man. I was just thinking yesterday, and I don't know why. We hadn't even been at the local mall. But in my head, I just started thinking about Sears. And, like, I am of the age where if they said, get in the car, were going to Sears, you were like, oh my goodness. Like, the Sears was right by the mall food court, so it was like a triple win. Sears had everything. It had to be the place I saw my first flat screen TV. We would go downstairs. All the tools, all the man stuff was in the bottom level, and you would sit on a riding lawnmower. And I was okay. I don't want to make myself sound too. I'm not stick and hoop old, but I was made to mow the lawn with a reel mower, and that's REEL. If you've ever used a reel mower on a regular yard, like, yeah, they use them. They use power reel mowers on like golf courses and stuff because they cut the grass so uniformly. No. A push reel mower, like no gasoline, no horses, manpower, and so seeing a riding lawnmower, I think that's what set in me as a very youthful youth, making my $5 a week to mow in the front and the back lawn with a push reel mower. I was like, someday I'll have a lawnmower you can sit on. And I mean, you know, I only had to wait like, I don't know, 35 years, and then I got one. Man, I do not miss the reel mower. I don't miss corded telephones. I certainly don't miss VCRs. But I do miss the local hobby shop. We have none left. None. We have Pegasus Hobbies 35 miles away. You can't get the things that you used to be able to get. We have a Hobby Town, which I just saw a news blurb, a couple days ago, maybe a week, that was like, Maine acquires Hobby Town. Are they just announcing this now? Did this actually happen a long time ago? Because I'm sure any of you who have ever ordered from either of those sites or been to the physical stores, they've had identical websites, like identical. The stuff that's in stock is in stock on both. The stuff that's out of stock is out of stock on both for at least 3 years now. So I was just under the impression that Maine owned Hobbytown or vice versa since I don't know when. Since back when we were eschewing Maine because Maine was too expensive. We wouldn't order from Maine. This was back before the big Horizon explosion. And we would still order from Tower. Tower was my go-to. Most everything that I ordered before Tower lost their Traxxas contract, before Tower got absorbed by Horizon, Tower was the place to be. So it's almost, but not quite, as much of a shame to see Tower having gone the same way as the local hobby shop, you know. Because it wasn't, it didn't start as part of a faceless corporation. Tower was, corporation. Tower was just what I remember as the first hobby shop that said, this online thing is going to come and it's going to kill us all. So we need to get ahead of that. So it became the first online hobby shop that I knew of. You could go and buy hobby stuff and they would send it to your house. And they shipped everything out of Champaign, Illinois, Champaign. Everything was UPS ground, baby. And it was 7 days. 7 days to get anything from there. Anything. They shipped the cheapest rate for everything. And now, I'm in the same state as Maine, and Maine has gone to, when they started taxing the internet, so now it doesn't matter. We used to order from places out of state because I'll wait a day or two not to pay sales tax. Remember those days? Those were halcyon days. Not as halcyon as the days when I could get on my bicycle, regardless of the heat or the humidity or the time of day, and ride my bike down to Busy Bee Hobbies and just ogle the things that I can't afford. Back in the day when your choices were basically Losi, Associated, Kyosho, and Tamiya. That was it. And it was all kits. It was nothing but kits as far as the eye can see. The concept of an RTR didn't exist yet. Oh, I say it without irony. What a time to be alive. Are things better now? I don't know. Are things easier now? Yeah. Globalization, man. It's not expressly a curse word. It has brought us a good for every bad that it has given us. It has, well, I mean, let's call it what it is. It has built most of the rigs here, built via globalization. Because if it wasn't extremely economical for manufacturers to ship goods of all kinds across the vast sea to get here, then like I wouldn't be able to afford to do this. If it was still the mid 1980s and the only radios that they carried were Airtronics and Futaba, and every once in a while there might be a JR, and we would look at the catalogs and think, oh, someday I'll have a KO Propo. And they keep A-Man still get a KO Propo on there, and I am definitely like, I would ogle a $450 radio back then, and I do the same thing now because, you know, come on, $60. So I can't, I just can't. I absolutely cannot. This is why the Wednesday, nobody watches Wheelin Wednesday, but it doesn't matter because this is like the best day of the week. You know, I get to come out here, I get to tool around, I get to free associate, and thank all of you so far that have put in your. I like to keep this in the outro, so only like 8 people get to see it. Thank you so far for all the people that have put in entries to the giveaway. I am collating them in order. They're collated in order of receipt. Should anyone hit the number, I can say as of this recording, no one has hit the number. But hey, you never know. You never know. I figure I will give it a full. So so it started on the 1st, and the 1st is that 5th. So I will announce on the 12th. Is that the right day? Because we're on the 28th, the 4th, the 11th to the 12th. Do I have a calendar on my watch? Okay, I do. Friday the 4th is this upcoming Friday, and then the 11th we will announce. The winner will be announced on the 11th. So I guess I will take submissions up through the 10th. So you have up through the 10th. And I know this confuses things for Europeans, but I can say this. If you haven't put in an entry yet, not to worry. Like I say, no one has hit the number, and I don't know if anyone is going to hit the number because there appears to be a lot of interpretation out there. And I was talking to my wife about this last night, and she goes, do you have a number? And I go, yeah. And she goes, then that's the number. And I said, you know, sometimes it gets a little irritating how much the voice of reason you are. And she just like was unreactive. It's like looking at a cat sometimes, where she's like, I allow you to exist. You know, that kind of attitude. Yeah. So I have a number, and that is the number. And if anyone matches that number, that's the person that wins. Or whoever gets closest to that number. And I don't mean closest without going over. I just mean numerically the closest to that number. If you are a smaller percentage off than anyone else, then you have won. And I have borne it as long as I can. I don't know if the microphone picks up the changes, the rapid and frequent changes in proximity, because the gnats are unbelievable. I've been doing a lot of one-handed driving and then just waving in front of my face the whole time. I will get to find out in the edit how much of that shines through. So I will see you tomorrow with, I think it's a junk view tomorrow. I will see you tomorrow with a junk view, and then I will see you for the State of Canyon. We'll talk about what's going on, what's up. And then we'll, you know what? A week will begin, and we'll do it all over again. So I'll see you again very soon. Please do comment below. We love the comments. Apparently the algorithm loves the comments, so the more comments, the better. If you have not, do check out the Indiegogo for the chassis, the Hardline chassis. I'll be putting a link in that throughout the month, and then we'll be done with that. And comment, Indiegogo, like if you liked it, subscribe, etc. Tell people about Wheelin Wednesday, and I will see you in the next one. Between now and when we meet again, before Jake drives out a friend here. Between now and when we meet again, please want to know, do your very best to have a good one, everybody. We will see you next time. I wanted to hit the cruise control button. He doesn't have that. We'll see you next time. Have a good one, everybody.